All right, so we're going to rank the NFL quarterbacks, the starting quarterbacks only for 2022-2023. We're only going to do the starters, so Kenny Pickett, any rookies are not going to be involved. And we're going to rank them S, A, B, C, D, and F tier. Quickly go through the tiers. S tier is going to be your MVP level players, your studs, your legitimate. They're good enough to not only win you games, but be the reason you win games. So they can drag a bad team to a Super Bowl. They can drag a bad team to the playoffs. These are the top of the line Hall of Fame MVP players. Also, it's important to know I'm only doing this for this season. So Tom Brady, for example, I'm not putting any of his past accolades into this. It's just how I think he will be this season, where he ranks right now. A is going to be your above average. Really more you're really good. These are the guys who they may not be MVP level players, but they're certainly good enough to win you a Super Bowl. They're certainly good enough to win you a playoff game. They're probably your franchise quarterback. They're probably the best quarterback you've had in a while. They're a kind of guy who can get hot and probably be a Pro Bowler, All Pro, maybe even win an MVP. But they're not in that top 3 or 4 level. B would be just bang average. They're just guys. They could probably get you to a playoff game. They're probably not going to win you a Super Bowl. They're just an average quarterback, maybe some upside, or maybe at the back end of their career, and they're just kind of at that where they're a nice middle ground. Below average is C. These are the guys who are probably those bridge players. Those probably they're going to get you from your past franchise quarterback to your next franchise quarterback. They may not be good enough to get you to 500, but you're not going to lose 16, 17 games with them either. But really, you're just kind of there until your team trades for a big-time player or your team signs a big-time player or drafts your next franchise quarterback. And then D is well below average. These are players who are starting to actually hurt you, who are actually losing you games. Think of these quarterbacks, the quarterbacks when your defense goes crazy, pitches a shutout, it's a 7-0 game, and your quarterback just cannot get anything going, and you lose the game despite of an incredible defensive effort. That's these kind of players. So that's in the D area. And then F is legit like the worst of the worst, should not be in the NFL, should not be on a roster, much less starting. I'm not even sure if we have any of those out there. So we'll start with the list. We'll start just kind of how this list is set up. So we'll go now in each tier, it will kind of be ranked. So in each tier, you will kind of see a little bit of a ranking there. All right, so let's jump right into it. Marcus Mariota starting for the Atlanta Falcons now. Mariota is the kind of guy where it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what he could have been. You know, he was great in college. Is he built for the pros? He's probably built more for the pro style now than he was when he first came into college. He's not big enough to be a Josh Allen kind of guy. Time will tell. I'll say he's just average right now. He's just bang average. If he stays healthy a full season, I'm not counting injuries. How can you quantify injuries? He's just an average player. I don't think he's going to kill the Falcons, but he's certainly not going to go out there and win them games either. Kyler Murray, depending on Call of Duty weekends, double XP Call of Duty weekends, he's probably an F. But on average, I think he gets a lot of overhype. I think he's a very dynamic player. I think he's a very fun player to watch. I think in certain situations he can be really good. In certain situations he can be the best player on the field, but more often than not he is not. I would say, but he's better than Mariota. I'd say he's above average. He's got a high ceiling. I will say that because he's shown when the Cardinals have been 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, he has shown how good he can be. But he's also shown how bad he can be, like in the last playoff game, where he was literally probably the worst player, probably the worst quarterback on planet Earth. Lamar Jackson, Lamar's an A. Lamar, I like Lamar. I think, look, you're going to get your anti-Lamar crowd forever. And they're going to say he's not a passer, he's not a quarterback, he can't read a defense, he's just a running back, all those tropes. Truth of the matter is we're pretty removed from Lamar from college, where he was just kind of an athlete playing quarterback. He can throw the football now. I mean, Lamar is a guy now is he Tom Brady? No. But Lamar, arm-wise, is pretty adequate. He's not a bad passer. It might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but I certainly wouldn't. I don't think he's deserved of being just thought as a running back. He can play quarterback. I would put his arm, if it was just arm capabilities, I would say his arm capabilities are better than the likes of Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts and Mitchell Trubisky and some of these guys on this list down here. And you add the fact that he is an absolute threat in the backfield. He's very similar to Josh Allen, and I'll kind of get to that. Obviously, next is Josh Allen. I'll kind of get to that, but Lamar kind of started that whole mindset where 4th and 1 all of a sudden is a pretty doable down. 3rd and 2 all of a sudden is pretty doable because now you can roll Lamar out, and the defense has to worry about him just picking up 2 yards or him throwing. And that's not even counting broken plays and things like that. So I think Lamar is good. I think the Ravens are going to be really good this year. They're one of my sneaky teams. And I think we could see a huge year from Lamar, which is saying something since he's already been in an MVP level in the past. So I like Lamar a lot. Is he S tier? No, but he's definitely A tier. All right, Josh Allen's S tier. Josh Allen's kind of revolutionizing the game. He's kind of doing what Steph Curry did for basketball, where he's bringing back this single T old school offense, but he's adding the wrinkle that he's huge, and he's also adding the wrinkle that he's a total freak athlete, and he's also adding the wrinkle that he can throw the ball about 90 yards. So with all that combined, he is one of the most unique players we've seen in a long time. He reminds me of like when Reggie Bush hit college, and Reggie Bush seemed like he was like a separate thing. Like you had all these other players, and then you had Reggie Bush. That's how Josh Allen is. You have the Buffalo Bills, and you have who they're playing, and then it's like the aliens just drop Josh Allen down, and he's doing his own thing. It's kind of wild because the way that the NFL used to be was, you would try and run the football, and you would try and establish your running backs, or you'd throw the football, and you try to get your receivers involved. The Bills just try and get Josh Allen involved. Like, it's really just, let's just let Josh Allen do things. It's pretty much their offense. I love when the Bills have it like 4th and 4, 3rd and 4, and they just run the old school Josh Allen snaps and follows about 4 guys to the right and picks it up. He's a freak. I mean, he is Cam Newton when Cam Newton was in his prime. He's any player like that. He is. I'm not sure we've seen the best of Josh Allen, and if that's the case, that is terrifying. He is the betting favorite to win MVP, and for good reason. I mean, he's unbelievable. So Josh Allen is absolutely S tier, will more than likely be the MVP this year, and the Bills are your Super Bowl favorites. So, I mean, if Josh Allen has an MVP year, the Bills could be 15-2, 16-1, 17-0 going to the playoffs. Baker Mayfield, I like Baker Mayfield a lot. I think he can win you games. I really do. I think he's a guy you want when the chips are down, when back's against the wall, all those tropes, you want Baker Mayfield. He's a winner. He's a gamer. He's physically, he's probably not the greatest player, but he's not Johnny Manziel. He's not a guy who doesn't have the arm, who doesn't have the athleticism. He has that. Baker, I think Baker has a pretty low floor. I think his floor is probably average. Like, his floor is probably just a serviceable average. His floor is like Andy Dalton, basically. But his ceiling, I think is pretty good. I mean, he's already proven that he can go toe-to-toe with the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's proven he can take the Browns, or he proved that he could take the Browns from winning 3 games over the course of 3 years to about 5 minutes away from the Super Bowl. So I don't see why Baker can't do it again. People forget how bad the Browns are, and Baker was a huge part of turning that around. He played hurt a lot last year. I think it's insane that he was even competing with Sam Darnold. I don't think he was competing with Sam Darnold for that job. I think that was all smoke and mirrors. I knew he was winning the job immediately, tweeted it out. But I like Baker, and I think Carolina is going to be a sneaky team this year with Baker. I would love to have him as my franchise quarterback. Justin Fields, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's better than Mariota. The Bears are terrible, and the Bears are terrible in the worst spot for a quarterback. The Bears are terrible on the offensive line. They're terrible protecting the quarterback. And up until now, they were terrible in play calling. And they may still be terrible in play calling. Time will tell. That's an awful combination for a quarterback. So Justin Fields, what he will be doing is running for his life. What he will be doing is being down 21 points with the defense, with their ears pinned back, blitzing them. It's going to be really hard for Justin Fields because of what's around him. I like Justin Fields, the player. I liked Justin Fields at Ohio State. I love his tool set. He's an interesting player. He's got a big arm. I think people think he wants to run because he has to run, but he really is a pocket passer. And he's got a great arm, a very accurate arm, very powerful arm. If the Bears give him anything, I think he can turn that franchise around. But up until now, they haven't proven it. And with their woes on the offensive line, this might not be the year they prove it. I think the Bears are probably one of the bottom 3 teams in the NFL. So it could be tough for Justin Fields. All right, next up, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's S tier. I mean, what else needs to be said? He's cut from the same cloth as Aaron Rodgers, as Tom Brady, the cool, calm, collected. He's who you want on your team. He's who you want in the trenches. He's who you want 2-minute drive. I will say this about Joe Burrow. I think he's so damn cool that it kind of covered up a little bit towards the end there. He was incredible in the regular season. The playoffs, I would say he was pretty average. The Super Bowl, average. Burrow, he had a lot of goodwill. I think he's a likable guy. I think the media like him. I think he gets away with a little bit. But he played way, way, way lower when the bright lights were on last year. He's the back of S tier. Right now, he's the second in S tier, but that's going to change. He's the back of S tier. He's a little bit above A tier. And that's because of how good he was in the regular season. We'll see if he can take a step forward. He's going to have to take step forwards. Like this can't be the end. If this is the end of Joe Burrow, he's probably going to slide into that A tier. He's going to slide down with Lamar. So I need to see a little bit more out of Joe. Some of his throws, some of the stuff he does is amazing. He's got that capability for sure, no doubt about it. He's got he can be a special player, and we'll see if he continues to be a special player. But as of right now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's in that S tier, the back of S tier. Deshaun Watson, wow, this guy. What a pervert. Monster among men, and even bigger of a monster among masseuses. I would say, now, if we're just talking football, which I guess we are right now, at his best, he has been kind of an S tier player. I'll say he's A tier. He's probably going to end up being the back of A tier. He's a special player. He's a transcendent player. Maybe he shouldn't be A tier because, he was dynamic, but the Texans he wasn't exactly dragging the Texans to the AFC Championship. You know what I mean? It's hard to pin all that on a quarterback, but I'll leave him in A tier. It's kind of funny because he's only been out for a little bit, but it's almost like the game kind of passed him by. Is there really that big of a difference between him, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Is there a difference between him and Josh Allen? Yes, there's an enormous difference between him and Josh Allen. I think the Browns were foolish with how they handled the Deshaun Watson situation. I think they were foolish with the contract they gave him. The whole thing was disgusting. The NFL it's just unbelievable the punishments they hand down, the suspensions that don't seem to mean anything and have no rhyme or reason, but that doesn't go into this, I guess. He's an incredible quarterback when he's playing at his best. Will we see his best after almost 2 years of being gone and all of this scrutiny? I don't know. We'll see. I'm assuming he'll be back, and it's kind of funny because if he is back and he's playing at that MVP level, I guarantee you the people in Cleveland will forget all about him getting touchy-touchy with 60 masseuses? Dak Prescott, I'm one of the biggest Dak Prescott apologists, but time's kind of running out on Dak. I'll put Dak in B tier. Dak, at certain points, I've had A tier, almost S tier. he's been MVP level for stretches, but now it's getting to that point in his career where he's going to have to prove it. He's going to have to start winning games. He's going to have to start, putting together full seasons. So I can't give Dak. He's slowly going to be dropping this way with how, he gets older and gets hurt or whatever. Now his ankle's sore or his foot or something with his cleats. But I think he's good. He's better than Baker. I don't know if he's better than Kyler right now. I'll have to see if he can stay healthy. If someone told me he was better than Kyler, I wouldn't argue, but I have him a little bit behind Kyler. Russell Wilson, I love Russell. Russell's A tier. I have him ahead of Deshaun Watson just for philanthropic reasons. Russell Wilson could go down as being one of the most underrated quarterbacks ever. I mean, he's got A+ elite level deep ball throwing, which sounds dirtier than it is. One of the best scrambling quarterbacks to ever play the game. And I think this is where he's underrated because Russell doesn't get that credit of being a running quarterback like Lamar does or Josh Allen or Michael Vick did or Kyler Murray. But Russell, when the pocket breaks down and Russell's getting blitzed and Russell has to make things happen, no one finds those holes and picks up 10 yards better than Russell Wilson. He's unbelievable. As far as the locker room, he is the perfect quarterback to have in your locker room. How could you not love Russell Wilson? Elite arm strength, elite accuracy. I would not be surprised at all. You know what? I'll put him ahead of Lamar Jackson. I would rather have him than Lamar. I would not be surprised at all if he has Denver positioned in an incredibly tough division, probably the toughest division in NFL history. I would not be surprised at all if he had the position to win that division or position to win the AFC. I love Russell Wilson. Great guy. Jared Goff. I've also been a huge Jared Goff apologist. When he was with McVay had him rolling. McVay had him playing really well. Problem in Detroit is that he goes from McVay to Dan Campbell. So now it's just Jared Goff being Jared Goff. He's probably better than Mariota. Goff has elite arm capabilities as far as he can spin the pill, but that's pretty much where it ends. Jared Goff is a one-read guy. He's got one read. He's got one layer. He's got one level. If that breaks down on the play, he's probably cooked. And that's why he was so good with McVay. McVay runs a lot of play action. Play action, the quarterback goes through their levels. It's pretty easy, and that's what he needs. He's proven in the past that he can be really, really good, but right now he's not really, really good. Aaron Rodgers, he is really, really good. Reigning, defending, undisputed MVP. Can he get another one? Rodgers is, he's a freak. He's a monster. He's physically, we haven't seen a player like him in a long time. Or when he was, we have now that he's been playing for a long time. But no one throws the ball more effortlessly than Aaron Rodgers. Sneaky, athletic, sneaky, can run around. The problem with Rodgers now is that he just doesn't win. He's won one Super Bowl early in his career. His issue is that he just doesn't get there. He squanders a lot of home field advantages. He squanders a lot of one seeds, and that's just not good enough at this point. And now that you take away all of his weapons, literally all of his weapons, all he has now is Allen Lazard, who may be out to start the year. So if Rodgers can make it happen with the likes of Lazard and Romeo Doubs and whoever else he has on the team, then this will be the biggest testament to how good he is. But you can't deny his capabilities. He is the MVP. People forget that. So I'll keep him in S tier. This is my boy David Mills. Sneaky was good last year. If this has been kind of a running trope in sports media, but if Mills was drafted top 10, people would be really high on him. But he wasn't drafted top 10, so people think that the Texans need to find their franchise quarterback. I'll tell you this. I would feel the same, or I do feel the same, about David Mills in Houston as I feel about Mac Jones in New England, as I feel about Justin Fields in Chicago, as I feel about Zach Wilson in New York. They're all the same to me. All those rookie quarterbacks from last year pretty much played the same. And Mills finished the season better than all of them. So there's no reason that his upside shouldn't be considered the same with all of them. There's no reason to take draft stock and all that stuff into grading a quarterback. He can play, I think Houston's going to be much better this year, and we'll see if he can take a step forward. If he can, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we were talking about him as being better than the Justin Fields and the Mac Jones and the Zach Wilsons if they take a step backwards. Matt Ryan, a lot of people are saying that Matt Ryan looks amazing. A lot of people are picking Indy to be in the Super Bowl mix. I don't know if I'm there, but I do know that he's a good, serviceable, smart quarterback at the end of his career who wants a Super Bowl. If it was between Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott, I might take Matt Ryan. I'm not going to lie, because I think I know what I'm getting with Matt Ryan. His ceiling is a B. His floor is a B. Like, that's where we're at with Matt Ryan at this point. At one time, yeah, he was an S-tier MVP level quarterback. He's not there anymore, but he's good enough, smart enough, savvy enough to not drop below. So Matt Ryan could have the Colts positioned certainly to win that division, very weak division, especially with Tennessee with all the question marks they have. But Matt Ryan, this could be this will be a make or break year for Matt Ryan as far as his legacy, as far as how people see him for Hall of Fame discussions and things like that. Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to say C. I'll say C. I'll put him higher than Fields and Mills and Goff and company. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not sold on Trevor Lawrence. I wasn't sold on him coming out of college. He throws an ugly ball. He kind of has the same makeup as a Josh Allen, like a guy who can run around, who can run you over, who can, a tough football player, a football guy's guy. But he has not shown that. Now, Josh Allen didn't show that for the first couple of years either. It took Josh Allen a little bit. When he first came out of Wyoming, before the rumors swirl, when he first came out of Wyoming, that first year, it didn't look like Josh Allen would be able to play in the NFL, much less dominate the NFL. So you gotta give these cats a little bit of leeway. Trevor Lawrence has Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson has been able to get a lot out of a little, a.k.a. Nick Folk, a.k.a. Carson Wentz. So there's no reason to think he can't do the same for Trevor Lawrence. So I like what Trevor brings to the table. Is basically, if you were to look like a Madden rating, he would just have like B's across the board. Like B throwing power, B throwing accuracy, B scrambling, B running, B this. So we'll see if he can bump a couple of those into A's. If not, he'll probably fall to the back of C. But the ceiling is super high for this cat, so huge year for Trevor Lawrence, now with a very capable coach. Patrick Mahomes, he is S tier. Patrick Mahomes is somehow underrated going into this year. Patrick Mahomes went from being, we on this channel, we were talking about, is Patrick Mahomes possibly already a top 10 quarterback to ever play the game? And now people just seemingly have forgot about him. This is a big year for him, too. We're taking away Tyreek Hill, but that's probably going to give Patrick Mahomes a little extra freedom, a little extra reign to just kind of move the ball around how he wants to. So huge year for Patrick Mahomes. You can't take away anything from his actual physical capabilities. No one has an arm stronger than Patrick Mahomes. No one throws a better ball than Patrick Mahomes. No one has sneaky athleticism like Patrick Mahomes. The guy can do like how Trevor Lawrence was B's across the board. He's A's across the board. I mean, Patrick Mahomes can do it all, and he's proven that he can win. He's proven that he can win games that he's supposed to lose, and that's an enormous trait for a quarterback, where there's some quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins where when the game is on the line, you feel an interception coming at any moment. You feel like things are about to go south. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, you feel the opposite. You feel like there's 2 seconds on the clock. He's got to go 70 yards. He's going to somehow make it work. If we're going to redo these a little bit, he's ahead of Burrow for sure. Burrow's probably behind. This is more how it is probably right now going into this year. And honestly, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are probably 1A and 1B. But Patrick Mahomes is I would be fine with saying that he's already a top 10 quarterback to ever live. Justin Herbert, I'm giving him the S tier. And I'll go one step further. I said this at draft day. I said this in the middle of the first season. I said this at the end of last year. I think he's better than Joe Burrow right now. And I would probably rather have Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow. Herbert's interesting. Interesting, number one, because I thought his last name was Hebert for a long time. Interesting, number two, because when he was at Oregon, I thought he was terrible. He had that Josh Allen syndrome at Wyoming, where he's one of the few players who got better in the pros, got better with pro coaching and pro surroundings. Herbert, his performance in the final game of the season against the Raiders was probably the greatest regular season quarterback performance I've ever seen. I think he completed converted 8 fourth downs or something like that. He was 16 for 16 at the end of the game. He was making throws that no one else on the planet could have made. I think he could take the biggest step forward if the Chargers reach the levels that they're supposed to reach. He has weapons galore. That's one thing that these two franchises have done with the Bengals and the Chargers. They have outfitted their quarterbacks with some tremendous weapons. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, then of course, obviously the Bengals, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I mean, these guys have all the firepower they need. Justin Fields is weeping looking at those rosters. But I love Herbert. He's Josh Allen light. He really is. He plays exactly like Josh Allen. He runs. He's not as physical as Josh Allen. He has some of the throws that Justin Herbert has made are in that echelon. Like if you were to look at all throws in history and made a top 10 list, Herbert would already have 2 or 3 of those. He's a stud. He's unbelievable. I hate that he's on the Chargers because it's the Chargers, one of the weaker fan bases, one of the weaker markets, I guess, as far as diehard fans. But if he was in Dallas, if he was the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, he may be the biggest star in the world. Matt Stafford, I'm not a big Stafford guy. I bet against the Rams all year last year. He made me pay for that, literally. He's one of those guys, I have to put him in the back of A tier because of the Super Bowl, but he just doesn't do it for me. He's just not exciting. To me, he wins the ugly games. To me, he's been kind of a stat chaser in Detroit, and I don't know. I feel like he kind of walked into the best situation possible and made a lot of it, which, hey, good for him. Can't fault a guy for being put in a situation and making a lot out of it. I just don't think at this point in his career he's offering me a ton on his own. You can say, yeah, James, look, he won the Super Bowl last year. I understand that, but I don't know. I mean, is he going to go out there and win you games by himself? Probably not. He needs a supporting cast at this point. If I could start this year with him or Deshaun Watson for 17 games, I'm going Deshaun Watson. I would put him at B, but like I said, he won the Super Bowl. What am I supposed to do? Derek Carr, I like Derek Carr. Is he A yet? No. But he's almost A. He's right there. He's probably, I'd put him here. I'd put him right below Matt Ryan because Derek Carr's floor is way lower. Derek Carr could easily be in the C's, but his ceiling is higher, I think, than Dak. I think at this point in Dak's career, he could probably be at the top of B. I think Derek Carr could take a leap to where he's in that A level. He's got some studs. The Raiders, I think, are going to be good. They play in a hellaciously tough division. But Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, the Raiders will be fun. They may be the most fun offense to watch, or one of the most underrated offenses to watch. Carr's problem in the past has been that he does not like getting hit. He does not like playing football. If you start hitting him, if you start making him play football, he hates that. He doesn't want to do it. He wants to sit back there and let it rip. If you let him let it rip, he will let it rip. But, so that's a huge detractor there. But I'll say solid B tier. Yeah. Tua, polarizing figure. Very polarizing figure. I think at this point he's probably getting a little too much hate. I think at this point he's kind of a meme with his inability seemingly to throw the ball downfield. I think that with this new offense, with new weapons, with new coaches, I think he has to take a step here. If he plays this year and he looks like the same Tua, he looks like he's scared to death, he looks like he's afraid to throw the football, that's not going to be good. Then he'll be in the back of C. I could see this year being the biggest breakout year for Tua. I'm rooting for him. I really am. The thing about Tua is that he's low-key not a great athlete. Low-key does not have a strong arm. Low-key does not have any escapability, any running ability, any scrambling ability. He is a pocket passer, which is kind of weird for it being he's like, I'm trying to think who to even compare him to on here. He's almost like a Baker Mayfield, but even less athletic than that. I really don't know. He's a funny makeup, because you would think that since he's a sit back passer, he can really spin it, but he really can't. He's precise, but it's the NFL. Everyone's precise. Jared Goff, he can let it go when he wants to. He can stretch the field. Tua, I'm not sure if he can. I'm giving him a lot of rope here, putting him at the top of C, and I think we're going to see a big year from Tua, but do not be surprised if 4 or 5 games in he's at the back. Kirk Cousins, underappreciated, underrated for the fact that he's just kind of Kirk Cousins, kind of a goofy guy, and some off-the-field issues. I think Kirk Cousins is B. The stats probably say that Kirk Cousins is back of A, but I just can't get there yet. Kirk Cousins just hasn't won. He's terrible in prime time. He's good in a very small vacuum. Now this year, a lot of these players are make or break. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson is a superstar, one of the top 3, top 4 receivers in the NFL. Dalvin Cook is here. Cousins has to have a big year. I think he can. I'd probably put him in the upper side of B. I'd rather have him than the Carrs, the Prescotts, the Mayfields of the world. But if it was the playoffs, would I be comfortable saying that Kirk Cousins can get me to a Super Bowl? No, probably not. And what's funny is that I love the Vikings this year. What's funny is that I love Minnesota going into this year. And the only detractor is Kirk Cousins. But, like I said, the analytics, the stats say that Kirk Cousins has had a pretty good career and certainly has been good the last couple of years. He's got one of the best touchdown-interception ratios. He's efficient. His completion rating is high. He's got everything you want, but he just misses those intangibles. So I think Minnesota could have a big year. I like Minnesota a lot. They're sneaky might be my NFC representative for the Super Bowl. Mac Jones, a lot of people fell in love with Mac Jones last year. I'm kind of cooling on Mac Jones. I'd have him right behind Fields because I think Fields' ceiling is higher. I think Mac Jones is good. I think Mac Jones' ceiling is probably low A. Mac Jones, to me, reminds me a lot of Matt Ryan. Like, Matt Ryan kind of plays the same way Mac Jones plays. Fields could probably ascend to that Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson level. I think Mac Jones is going to be a really, really, really good game manager for his career. I don't think he's going to develop into being one of those, like a Matt Stafford. I think the absolute highest level of Mac Jones would be Matt Stafford. I like Mac Jones. He's in a great situation. This is going to be a tough year for the Patriots, I feel. It's never good to go from Josh McDaniels to Matt Patricia, which Mac Jones is going to have to do this year. So we'll see how that goes. But I like Mac. I like a lot of these players in C, and a lot of these players in C, we're kind of wait and seeing, on how they do this year. You know what I'm saying? Little alphabet pun there. Jameis Winston, man. So I live in New Orleans. Jameis Winston, I've had so many conversations tempering people on Jameis Winston. I'll put Jameis at the top of C right now. And, this could change. Let me say this about Jameis. I love what Jameis has done off the field. As far as he looks like he really learned from Drew Brees. He looks like he really learned what it takes to be a quarterback, to be a franchise quarterback. He's much more serious now. He's much more of a leader. I mean, he's constantly at practice first, at practice last. He's saying the right things. As a person, I love Jameis Winston. I'm rooting for Jameis Winston. I will be at every Saints home game. I'm rooting for Jameis. The problem is the sample size that I have says that it's just not going to be there. we've seen two versions of Jameis. The first version was the Tampa version, the version that threw 5,000 yards but threw 30 interceptions. And people forget this. He fumbled 16 times that year. So he had 46 turnovers in 16 games. He fumbled 16 times. He's the quarterback. He fumbled almost once a game. That is crazy. Now, people say, well, now we'll see what he can do with high-powered offensive weapons. I know what he can do with high-powered offensive weapons. He had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I know what he can do. He can throw 30 interceptions. The same team. Yes, they got Tom Brady, but he took that same team to 8-8. Why? Because he turned the ball over 46 times in 16 games. That makes it really hard for a defense. That makes it really hard for a team when you're doing that. Then we saw the New Orleans version with the greatest offensive mind in NFL history, possibly, in Sean Payton. And what did Jameis do? He threw for about 108 yards a game. Yes, his interceptions were down. His touchdown to interception ratio was actually really, really good. I think he only threw like 2 or 3 interceptions when he got hurt. But that doesn't matter if you're throwing for 110 yards a game with Sean Payton. He's going from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen. Now, he is upgrading his weapons considerably. He had no wide receivers, and Kamara was hurt a lot last year. But I just don't know if I can believe that Jameis can marry the 5,000-yard Tampa Jameis with the Heisman game-winning national championship winning version of Jameis and marry that with the low turnovers with a new coach in Dennis Allen. Now, it is the same offensive coordinator, but I don't know if it's there at this point in his career. I am rooting so hard for Jameis, but I just don't think that this transformation is fully sound there. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is our first D. Daniel Jones is losing the Giants games. Daniel Jones should be. This is a good example. If Daniel Jones was drafted where Davis Mills was drafted, he would be out of the NFL. But he was drafted, 6th overall? So the Giants are giving him a tremendous amount of time. The Giants should have cut bait already with him, and I'm going to go ahead and predict that Tyrod Taylor will be the starting quarterback of the New York Giants. Daniel Jones does not have it, doesn't have anything. He's probably the most effective when he's running, and he's not a running quarterback. Daniel Jones, I feel bad for Giants fans that they have to suffer another year of this. Zach Wilson, I like what Zach Wilson brings to the table as far as what he can do athletically. He's kind of like Baker Mayfield with probably a better arm. The problem with Zach Wilson is I just don't know if he can hold up. I don't know if he can survive a season or if he can survive in the NFL. He's hurt right now, so we're going to have to wait about 4 weeks to see him in his second season. I love his skill set. I love what he can bring to the game. I just don't know if he's kind of like if Johnny Manziel in college would have actually translated to the NFL, like the same game. But I don't know if you can, like, the difference between him and Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray has a legit A+ arm strength. Zach Wilson doesn't have that. Zach Wilson has probably B-, legs. Kyler probably has A legs. So Zach Wilson's kind of a worse version of Kyler, I would say. Same size, same. We'll see with Zach. Like I said, he's hurt right now, so whatever. But and then another thing too with Zach Wilson, out of all the rookie quarterbacks, the Jets' offense was the worst. Like the Bears' offense, the Patriots' offense, the Jets' offense was far and away the worst. So numbers-wise, analytics-wise, all that doesn't look good for Zach Wilson either. Jalen Hurts, interesting, because the Phillies are drawing a lot of love for the Super Bowl. Their offense is supposed to be really good. The problem is, can Jalen Hurts throw? The problem is, can Jalen Hurts move the ball with his arm? Or does Philly have to run a very specific offense? And if they aren't running that very specific offense, can they do anything? That's the big question right now. So we'll see. We'll see what the answers to that are. I like kind of how the Philly plays, but I do think Jalen Hurts is incredibly limited. I love their offense. I love how they play. I love the running attack. If he can do that, like if they can do it, he's as dynamic as it gets. If he has to beat you with his arm, I don't think it's possible. His ceiling, probably about a B. His floor, probably about an F. Mitchell Trubisky. Big Mitch has shown that he can be really good. I mean, he was in the MVP discussion. Unfortunately, I don't think he can get back there. I do think if Mike Tomlin is going to ask him to be Ben Roethlisberger from last year, I think Mitchell can be a better Ben Roethlisberger from last year. Now, the bad side of that is that Ben Roethlisberger from last year was probably one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So I do think that Mitchell Trubisky is an upgrade to last year's version of Ben Roethlisberger, but with Mitch comes risk. Mitch can manage you a game, or he can throw you a game away. I believe in him. I think he will be the starter. I think he will remain the starter. I think he'll be good enough to guide Pittsburgh to a 500-ish record. Could find a playoff berth, but beyond that, I don't see it. I'm not going to rank Kenny Pickett because I don't think he'll be starting. Trey Lance. This is the big question mark. I mean, it's hard for me. I can't put him at a D because I really haven't seen him play. I can't put him at a B because I really haven't seen him play. So I'm going to put him at the back of C. He's a huge question mark. Trey Lance could easily be in the B tier or A tier at the end of this year. If he's really good, if Kyle Shanahan, and if anybody can do it, it's Kyle Shanahan. If he can get San Francisco moving with Trey Lance, if he can be kind of how Jalen Hurts is, where the offense is just tailored around him, I think he could be as special as people make him out to be. But I just haven't seen it. He hasn't played meaningful football in 3 years. So he's a huge question mark. If there was a question mark tier group, he would be in there. Tom Brady, S tier. What are you going to do? He's been S tier his whole career. He will be S tier his whole career. The funny thing about Brady is that he's arguably playing the best football of his career. He throws a better ball now than he did 10 years ago. That's a fact. He looks better in the pocket, on the field, moving around, however you want to phrase it. He looks better now than he did 10 years ago, which is insane because 10 years ago he was, an MVP kind of player. And then 15 years ago, he's winning the Super Bowl. So he is insane. He is the only person to ever beat Father Time up until this point. If he is the winner, GOAT, Mamba mentality, Jordan, however you want to phrase it, he's that mentality. He's that winner trait to a new level, a max level, the highest possible level. He's kind of like LeBron. If you put him on the Giants are probably winning 12 games this year. If you put him on the Texans are probably winning 12 games. He's just that kind of a player. It's funny because he's probably closer to here at this point. He's probably right above Herbert. If it was a 2-minute drive to win the Super Bowl, out of everyone on this list, I'm probably taking Tom Brady until he retires, just because he's that much of a winner. Ryan Tannehill, I would say at this point now he's D. He's losing the Titans games. The Titans have squandered. The Titans probably have been good enough to get to a Super Bowl, if not win a Super Bowl in the last 2 years, and Tannehill is the reason that they are not. A couple years ago, whenever they were, I think, playing Baltimore in the playoffs, and he threw it like 6 times. Maybe it was the Chiefs, but he threw it like 6 times. That's all you need to know. If Mike Vrabel, who I consider a very good coach, if Mike Vrabel doesn't trust his quarterback in a playoff game to throw it more than 6 times or 8 times, whatever it was, that is all I need to know about what they think about Ryan Tannehill. He is for sure now regressing. He is for sure now losing the Titans games. He's better than Daniel Jones, but not by much. Carson Wentz. Carson's a funny player because at one point Carson was the MVP when he was with Philly. Then he got hurt. Then Philly won a Super Bowl. Then he got worse. Then he got way worse in Indy. Now he's in Washington. Wentz is probably at the highest level of D right now because he for sure was losing Indy games last year. I mean, he's straight up, like, there's no way around it. I mean, he and I'm giving the rookies a little bit of grace with that as far as, like, losing games. But Wentz, same with Tannehill, where Indy probably was good enough to really compete last year, really make a run at it, but they never could because of Carson Wentz. He was a detriment to the offense, and maybe, he got hurt, and he got hurt again, and it might be one of those things where he just lost that first step, or he lost that quickness, or he lost something there, and he just can't get it back. And now it seems like he holds on to the ball too long. It seems like he forces throws. I mean, he threw an interception left-handed last year. He's not the same player at all when he was with Philly, when he was in the MVP conversation before he got hurt and Foles took over. You always want to say, like, a new location and new surroundings can boost a player up. I just don't see it with Wentz. I think at this point now he's hurting teams, and he's going to hurt Washington. All right, there it is. There is the tier list for this upcoming season. We are getting back in the saddle with these videos, with the streams and stuff. This is a new location, a new setup. This is the first time I've turned on this camera in over a year. First time we've done all this, especially in the new area. So I'm going to have to do a lot with this video as far as, like, sound check, video check, all that stuff. So if you're new to the channel and you see a big gap, that's what happened. But we're going to try and get back to a normal routine, power rankings, all this stuff, breaking down what's going on. So hopefully this is the first video of many. So thank you for joining me for the tier list. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff if they're still saying that on YouTube. And I'll see you on the next one.